Thank you. Okay.
Hi, John.
How you doing?
Is Brenda here yet?
Yes, she is, but she's eating dinner and she'll turn on her video as soon as that's done.
Okay, there you are.
Here she is.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I just finished dinner and I made a baked potato with steamed broccoli and some cheese. It was delicious. Fast and delicious. So,
Okay.
looking forward to seeing all of you next week, right?
Yeah, next
Yeah, in
Tuesday.
person.
Okay, it'll be fun.
We won't be able to tell Debbie because she won't be frozen in a corner.
I know. This is so bizarre. And it actually was working for a few minutes tonight, so I don't know what it's doing. Well,
What can I
whatever.
tell you?
Who are we missing?
Carol and her brother.
Oh,
And is Penny going to be here this week or is she still gone?
Penny's not taking the class.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I think that just leaves Carol. Did she say, I mean, we all,
And Shirley Grant
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and Anna Marie.
Well, I said the good thing is it's recorded now so they can catch up.
Yeah. And I'll have it on the Facebook page this evening sometime.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm behind. So where are we tonight? What are we studying tonight?
We're starting chapter 4.
Okay.
But he promised us once we got past 5, it was going to be easy. So we're holding him to that.
I said easier. I didn't say easier. I don't think this ever gets easy. It's just degrees.
I guess, it's interesting when we first decided to sign up for this, somehow, I don't know what I was thinking the classes were going to involve, but this is not what I was expecting, but I'm not a quitter. I will fight through this, but
Well, that's all you have to do.
yeah,
What are they different than you expected?
I don't know. I guess I was thinking they were going to teach us how we could speak to one another. I don't know. But I was not expecting it to be this technical.
Well, it'll get less technical once you learn the technical stuff.
That's why I said my brain hurts.
Yeah.
Well, let's try just a little bit to talk about propagation. Now, propagation is the part that I've always described as black magic. You're not supposed to understand this stuff. Now, above your head, we look at the sky, and what do we see? Practically nothing unless an airplane or a bird is flying over. But there's a lot more going on there than you think. It's like the ocean. When you look at the top of the ocean, you see waves and things like that, but you don't see very much. Above the top of our head, up to about 300 miles is a real, it's a real turbulent area. Things are moving all over the place. We can't see them. We don't know they're happening, but they are happening. We're going to talk about how radio waves move through that stuff, what's up there.
Well, can I throw a question at you then? We talk about this. So what happens when a rocket ship goes up or something that is stopping these waves for a moment? Does
They're
that?
not stop. It doesn't stop them. It may move them around a little bit, but it doesn't stop them.
Oh, okay. So they are able to continue, even
Yeah.
though they're okay. Okay.
In fact, we're going to talk about bouncing radio waves off things, and rockets are one of them.
Okay.
But when the radio wave comes off the antenna, it has an electronic element and a magnetic element. They're mixed together. It is therefore an electromagnetic element. They travel in straight lines and they head straight for the horizon. If you got an antenna, it goes straight to the horizon. When it gets to the horizon, it keeps going. And it goes, and there is stuff going on up to 300 miles up. And think of just churning waves and things like that are going on. The radio wave goes in a straight line always. Eventually it will dissipate completely, but we're going to study what happens to it before it dissipates. It's moving in a straight line, and it's not going straight up from us, but it's going straight across. And when it gets to the horizon, it keeps going. So it's going out into about 300 miles of space after it gets to the horizon. And then it hits the ionosphere. Now, if you turn to page 4-4, you'll see a couple of representations of the ionosphere. At the top of 4-4, we see a map of the world there, and on top of it is a gray area, which is the ionosphere. 300 miles, 160, 300, whatever. It changes all the time, so it's not fixed at 30 miles, and it's not fixed at 300. It's kind of all the time. Storms, the rotation of the earth, time of the year, all these things affect how that happens. But when you go up, there are 4 layers. In the daytime, there are 4 layers. At night, there are 3. When you go up above 30 miles, you're going to hit a layer called the D layer. The D layer is thick, and it's made up of air. But when the sun is shining on the air, it knocks the negative charges off of the molecules. And so some of them have negative charges and some of them don't, depending on the air, the sunshine. When the electromagnetic goes through this, usually it will absorb some of it, not all, but some of it. It goes up a little higher, and you have the E layer. That's E as in echo. Then farther in the daytime, there are 2 F layers. We call them 2 F layers because at night they form together. So F in the daytime is 2, and F at night is 1. These little molecules will actually turn the electromagnetic wave and shoot it back to Earth. Are you following me on this? We don't think of radio waves as changing their direction, but they do. When it goes back to Earth, you see what you see here on 4-5. You see how these radio waves go out straight? Some of them go up into space. That's why we've never been invaded by they watched our television and they want no part of us. But some of them curve back just a little and a little and a little, and then all of a sudden they're headed towards us again. That's why we can talk to such faraway places. You could be 25 miles or 2,000 miles or whatever. Just whatever the curving thing comes down, you can talk to the people through that curve because it will curve from them going back to you at the same way. Now, in between, there are places called nulls. You cannot pick up your radio signal in a null. You see here, this one, Greenland is a null because it's up high, it's not down here. We're talking to Europe somehow. We're talking from the west coast of the United States to Europe, but in the null, we can't do anything. Now, obviously, there are people who are living in places where it will turn and come down in Greenland. That just depends on where they are and where Greenland is. The idea is that you have just about in the world, somebody is able to talk to you. Not always where you want, but that's the way it works. That's one of the interesting things about radio is that you can listen to South America, but you can't listen to Europe today. And tomorrow it's the other way around. So whatever you have to say to South America, say it today. Tomorrow they may not be there. But anyway, these bending waves, these curved waves, is what makes it possible for us to live here and have conversations with people. Did you have a question? Did you have a question? All I see here is Funky One. I don't know your name.
Oh, that's Nancy.
Nancy.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm Nancy.
Yeah,
Well, how do you spell Knowles?
I'm sorry.
You said the in-between area that goes up before it comes down is
Right.
called nose.
No, Null.
Oh.
Null. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And you can't get into that area for any reason at all, simply because it's going over the top of them as opposed to coming down on top of them. Are you following me there?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Now, we don't know and we can't do anything to make stuff work in areas. We can't say, okay, I want to talk to Oklahoma and Oklahoma isn't open today, but that's okay. I can't do anything to change that. I had a fellow one time ask me, how do I make so that the signals in the places I want them to come to me will be open? What do I do to my station to make those open up? I says, you can't do anything. It's
But then
completely,
can somebody else from a different area, let's just say you're trying to reach Oklahoma and it's too high today, but could you reach somebody in Vermont who might be able to reach them because they're at a different angle?
absolutely. I had a time when I was trying to reach a fellow who is, he was just a little above me or I'm sorry, below me in here in Oregon. And do you know where the sixes are?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that? Okay. He was in the sixes and I was in Bandon. I could not reach him for anything. We're on 2 meters now. And I'm sorry, we were on 80 meters. Could not call him at all. Another fellow in the same net that we were said, I have a copy on both stations. Give me the message and I'll pass it to him. I passed it to him and then he passed it to the other guy. Okay. I then said, thank you, friend. Where are you located? Bremerton, Washington.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
And-
really?
You can do that all the time. In fact, sometimes on emergency stuff, we can't get into wherever the emergency is, but we may be able to call someone who can reach them. I couldn't, you can't say it'll work this way. Let's try that. You just have to keep trying. But the signals come down depending on what the weather's like, what the, is it night or day? What are the frequencies we're talking about and things like that. And they all come down different places. But you can reach somebody else who can reach them. Sometimes we'll go on the air and we'll say, okay, I can reach, I can reach Eugene, which is where our storehouse is. But they can't reach the people where the problem is located, say Brookings. So I call Eugene and say, I have contact with Brookings. Give me the message you want to pass down. And this is called relaying. And the name of the organization that we use so much for information is American Radio Relay League. Back in the 20s and 30s, most of their contacts were by relays. They didn't have the distance to get in touch with people directly. So that's why they call it the Relay League. But now it's much easier to get much farther. So that's what you have to think about is those bands, the E and F particularly, are bouncing something back from space to us. And then we're talking through that bounce.
So can others hear our conversations then if they're on the same wavelength?
Yes. We have no anticipation of privacy on amateur radio.
So in other words, just something to keep in mind that when you're talking on it, don't talk about private matters.
That's right.
Okay.
Brenda, you heard me about calling Japan, but you don't have any private anticipation there. I just want you to make sure you're getting all the important stuff. Brenda's fiance is in Japan, and so she's very interested in how to do these loops over Japan.
Oh, sweetie, make sure she's careful what she says to him.
Yes, just want you to make sure, dear. So if you think about this, it's really a miracle that we can get to anywhere in the world. If we keep trying long enough, we can get anywhere we want to go and places we can't even think about. But we can't do it every single day. I've talked to Australia several times. Hello?
I just have a question real quick.
Go ahead.
So that seems like a problem in times of need if you can't get through.
Sometimes, yes.
I mean, does it become more clogged up? I'll just use that word or term. If, let's just say there's a major emergency in Australia or Japan or some other part of the world that you're trying to connect with, is it harder to get through because of that?
Partly so, yes. But if you're talking about distance, it could be the frequency that you're using. It could be the time of year. It could be a lot of things involved in that. Sometimes you'll hear there'll be an emergency in say Korea, and they'll say, don't use these frequencies to call Korea because we got that set aside for the people who are doing an emergency work. Now, if you speak the language, you can tune in, you can listen all you want to, but don't get in the way of having them they're, I needed this or what they're doing. So it's a great place to practice languages when you hear there's going to be they're going to block out El Salvador because of something happening down there. But if you speak Spanish, it's great to tune into that, and then you can listen to what's being said, and then you'll be knowing all about it, but you don't call in and say, hey, I got this or that. Now, sometimes what you'll do is you'll call another station in El Salvador or Korea or wherever that is not in those blocked out areas, give them the message, and then let them transmit it. So it could be done. But when there's a big problem, we go on the air. Maybe we can't reach that area, but somebody else can call us. And then, well, I can call Central Canada, but I can't do the East Coast or something like that. And they'll call me to say, okay, pass this on to whoever I want it to go to. And that's one of our really sacred responsibilities, is to say, when somebody gives you a message, I want this passed on to the United Nations or whatever, doesn't matter. You need to keep trying until you get it through. There is a group that's part of ARRL, and they're a traffic network. And every day you'll tune into their area, and they'll say, okay, I've got something for Bandon, Oregon. Well, I can hit Bandon, but they can't. So I'll take that message and I'll say, I'll pass that on. And I'll call Brenda when she gets her license before she moves to Japan and tell her what I want them to know. And you will then say, I've got a message for you from wherever it came from originally, and I want to give it to whoever you're supposed to give it to. And this stuff is all given to you when we pass the message. But if Debbie is up in Lakeside area and we need to talk to them, well, we'll call Debbie. We don't know where these other people are, so we'll call Debbie and hope she's not frozen. Because then she can pass it on to whoever needs to get it. And that's one of our really important things that we can do, is we'll say, okay, Judy is in Florence, I believe, and you have something that has to go somewhere else, or maybe the bishop says, we've got to tell the stake president this, and I know where the stake president is, he's in Coquille, so you pass it to me and I call Coquille. Because within the church system, that's what we're going to be doing. Each one of us who's a member or sympathetic with the church will pass traffic to other places. And I have a book with everybody's name and address and call sign in it. So when you guys get your licenses, you'll be going into that book, and I will be able to call whoever you are and say, look, Judy, Debbie, whoever you are, will now pass this message from the stake president to your local bishop or something like that.
And then we don't have to ham radio it to them. We could call them on our cell phone or something if we needed to, right? So as long as we pass them.
Yeah, whatever you can do. But if the lines are out or something like that, I'll call you and say, okay, Debbie, I want you to pass this on to your bishop. And then you'll, if he lives next door, you walk next door. If he doesn't, then you do something else. It doesn't have to be ham radio,
Okay, yeah,
but you're part of the connection between everybody.
right.
And this is
right.
a very important part of what we do in ham radio.
Yeah.
Because if we have a big thing happen to us in this state, I want every one of you to find out how that affects your area and call me, 87IL, and then I will tell the stake president, in Florence, we have this, in Lakeside, we have that. In Coos Bay, we have the other thing. And he will be able to build a picture for himself of what needs to be done. And the president and the church members, the brothers and sisters in various stakes will say, okay, we've got to do this, whatever this thing is. We had a forest fire in Washington State. People were out of their homes. We weren't able to do much for them, but we got places for them to stay. What they did was they said, okay, the Green family is coming down and they have 3 children and they need a place where somebody who can take them in because their house has been burned. The Brown family is just a husband and wife, but she's diabetic. And that kind of information, the stake president can then say, okay, where can we put these people with people who will be sympathetic to their situation so that maybe a diabetic person will be a nurse or something like that. So we'll be able to send them to the very best people we can do. We don't know who those people are going to be because we don't know who the people in need are. Does that make sense? Does that make this calling more important to you?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to antennas. An antenna has 2 purposes. One purpose is it catches the signal. This electromagnetic wave that's coming across the country will hit those wires that I've stretched out there. We'll start a sympathetic message in the antenna, go down to my radio, and the radio will translate it into voice because it'll take the signal that's coming in and that we have selected to listen to. You see, the whole antenna is picking up signals all over the place. When you tune your radio, it selects which part of that antenna we're going to listen to. So that's what we're doing. We're tuning our antenna, or tuning it through our antenna to say, okay, this is the one I want to listen to, because in Coos Bay Stake, we've decided to use this frequency when we're all talking to each other for emergencies. And then I'll talk to you and you'll talk to me, and then I'll send messages out to you to the various parts of the stake. Are you following me with the parts of the antenna being listening?
Okay, yep.
Okay, now there are 2 different kinds of antennas. And if you look at 4-6, you'll see it's vertical. Now, an interesting thing about vertical antennas is when you set one up, it establishes a it's a dummy antenna. It doesn't appear even to be there, but it's the same length and everything in the earth. So that whole antenna, if it's 10 feet high, you got a 20-foot antenna. Half of it's under the earth and half of it's on top. But some of the signal that we're getting is coming through the earth. It's called a ground wave. It's in the ground. And then the other is the air wave. It's coming through the sky. When that starts to vibrate, according to the message you're receiving, it will then go into the back of the radio, and the radio will pick out the part we want to listen to. The the frequency that we have decided that we're going to do our emergency work on. Now, next to that, you see one that goes straight up and it has a flat piece on it. Okay, the straight up is called the antenna mast and the flat piece is called the antenna. It's made up of several parts, so those are elements of the antenna. And it's doing the same thing. It's causing the message that comes in or the one that you're sending out for the electrons to start moving, and it will pick up the message that's coming in, or it will cause the electromagnetic waves to go out, one or the other, depending on which is happening. And you, there's no better. It's just what can you afford to put up? Some of them are 30 foot high, got a big Yagi and antenna on it, which is a long rod with crossbars on it, and it will send out in one direction real well, but it doesn't send out in all directions. That's fine. What you do is you put a rotator on it, and when I want to send to Greg, it goes over this way, and when I want to send to Nancy, it goes over this way. You're actually turning the top part of that antenna. Now, they're quite expensive, but at the same time, they're more effective.
Oh, it's like years ago with TVs, we all had antennas and you had a base at the bottom. You would turn the antenna to be able to pick up the radio station or the TV station.
Right.
So it's doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The antennas that we've gotten since then are a little better, but it's the same principle. Now, on your radio, there is a little button that's called antenna gain. You'll turn that back and forth, and what it does is not increase the volume. It focuses the antenna, which is sitting still, but it focuses it so you can get better or not quite so good. These antennas should, or these gain buttons should go completely around. It's not something like a volume that goes up to a certain point and then stops. And what you do with it is you sit there and you tune it back and forth across the whole circuit. And somewhere the antenna may have a little better gain on it than another. And so that's what you listen to, and you can hear a little better. It's not volume, it's gain. And as the gain is from the antenna being focused. Did you have a question, Brenda? Okay.
Okay, so I have a question. You said that one of the purposes of the antenna was to catch the signal. What's the other
Yes.
purpose?
Send out the signal.
Oh.
It's exactly the same process, only in reverse. When you have your antenna receiving what you're sending through the radio, it will send out in all the directions that it can what you're doing, and all it is the electrons from inside of the antenna are going out in this electromagnetic thing, electromagnetic wave. Say that 10 times real fast. But when you are listening, the radio waves coming in are going to send those same electrons back down to you. Okay? Now, you can bounce these signals. If you're sending out, and one of the things that they were doing in Vietnam was they'd send it into the side of a mountain. Well, a mountain doesn't do much as far as passing the message on, but it will bounce the electromagnetic wave off to one side or the other. And we didn't know a lot about that until, we'll say, the Korean War. But that's what they were doing, is taking these little tiny signals that you can't, it doesn't have a physical being. It's just electricity and magnetism. And when it hits something, there is a reaction. You were talking about rockets. If we want to change the course of a rocket, we send a message by radio to the rocket, and it will adjust whatever little things it has in it. We'll do that. And sometimes, if you're real fast, you can, like off the bottom of an airplane or something like that, you can bounce a signal. It's only good for a couple of milliseconds, but you can do it. It can be done. And so that's the kind of things you can do. And as you learn more about radio, you'll learn how to do that more. Is there a question? Okay. Anyway, you can bounce signals off of other things, like a side of a mountain. Maybe there's somebody at the bottom of that mountain that you can aim the signal at, and it'll bounce off down to the car, and he'll hear it, where he doesn't have line of sight. Most of these signals will move in line of sight. In other words, if you were tall enough and your eyes were good enough, you could see that in Brookings, there's a guy listening to your radio. That's line of sight, but there's a mountain in the way, so we can't do that. But we can do it in Florence if we can get the signal strong enough to go to Florence. This is confusing anybody at all? Do we understand this?
It's actually making more sense.
Well, I hope so. Okay, we talked about antenna gain. Now, on 4-8. Here, oops, right here, you can see what the antenna's signal looks like. They do not always send out to exactly the same places in a round circle. There are those that are like that, but you'll notice how on this one, it's sending out more to the, sending out more here than it is here. Okay,
Mhm.
Well, I can't see what you just pointed to. Okay.
right here.
Sending out more on the outside than the inside? Is that what you?
Yeah. Now, don't look at that and think, well, that's how many miles it'll go. It isn't. It's the shape of the signal going out from the antenna. It could be 1,000 miles, it could be 20 miles, it could be whatever, depending on the frequencies and things like that. But it has that shape. Now, next to that, the one that looks like it's got like 3 leaves on a clover right here.
Mhm.
That's what it looks like when it's sending the signal directly at you. And you see there's some places there where it doesn't go out very far at all. On this one, we're looking down on the top. And on this one, we're looking at it coming to us. We don't know how far it's going. We don't know what the power is, anything like that. But we know that's the shape of the signal that's going out.
Does it weave back and forth? Well, you called it what, a clover? Does it do
Yeah,
that
that
because
one
it's
looks-
bouncing off of different objects, or
No,
why does it make
it's
such?
coming straight at you because that's the way the signal has been configured when they made the antenna.
Oh my
and it-
goodness.
So it's not bouncing side to side or anything like that. It's coming straight at you as a solid.
Then why is it 3 loops?
Because that's what they have to work with They decided what kind of an antenna they want. And they put it up, and that's what they look like.
Oh, okay.
So
And
different antennas have different patterns then.
yes, ma'am,
Okay.
very much so. Now, I think I'm about labored you enough here. I'm gonna leave that. We'll talk about feed lines and stuff like that next time, but do you understand that these invisible rays are going out, affecting an antenna or being affected by one, which way it is. And that's what's going to tell you if the signal's coming into you, you're going to be able to pick out the same frequency that is the other guy's tuned to, and you can talk to each other directly.
Now, what about satellites? A lot of our dish TV bounces off a satellite.
It's just like an antenna that's way up in the air.
So the ham radios don't bounce off satellites. It's too high
Yes,
up.
they do. Yes, they do.
Oh, they do. Okay.
We have what's called OSCAR, orbiting satellites carrying amateur radio. They're built by hams and turned over to, well, there's an organization that does it, but they deal from the military to send them up on antennas, on rockets. But when you hear about an Oscar, they're going over, what you do is you aim your antenna at that Oscar and try and make contact. Now, there's nobody in it, but when it's into that Oscar, it will then be transmitted somewhere else down. Am I confusing you?
No, okay, okay.
Doing more things rather than less. But to have an Oscar go over, there's a book out on satellites and spacecraft and things like that, which, you know, in the International Space Station, they have radio equipment for amateurs. And one of the neat things they do is they'll have, okay, we're going to have a school, an elementary school or a high school, and they're going to tune in. They have an appointment, and everybody in the world can listen to them. And the astronauts are going to talk to the kids, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
And so let's say you are the one the school contacts to set up. You're going to have your contact with that satellite or space station or whatever, because most schools can't do this on their own. So you'll come in and you'll have your little radio and you'll have your antennas. You talk to the satellites on 2 meters and they talk to you on 10 meters. So basically you have to have one radio receiving and one radio sending. As a technician, you'll be able to work on the 2 meters, but you cannot transmit on 10 meters. So the signal goes up on 2 meters and then they talk to you on 10 meters. And you've got this stuff here and all the kids are listening. I
That
think that's
sounds
neat.
like fun.
Yes.
Well, I
Yes.
We
read
should start a ham radio club at the high school where I work.
Well, that would be fine.
why
All they have to have,
Yeah.
they have to have, Judy, is somebody who can teach the kids about radio.
Yeah, I'll invite you to come down and do that.
Yeah.
I would be happy to do it, but at the same time, when you get your general, you'll be the guy.
Okay.
No, I was reading somewhere that ham radio operators can talk to the space station, but you're given a very, very short time because there's so many other people that want to do it.
That's right. And what they've done is they've said, okay, we're not going to have lone ham radio operators or maybe 3 or 4 at a time. We're going to talk to entire schools.
Yeah.
The technology has not changed. They've just said, okay, we want to get the most kids, the biggest bang for our buck. And so that's how they do it now. At one time, they were talking to just hams and that was all there was, but it got to be kind of busy. So now they, yes, Brandon.
Off topic, I'm going back to figure 4.8
Okay.
on our page 4-12. Are those the things that you see hanging down on telephone wires spaced in between?
You talking about this? You talking about this?
Yes,
Those are usually between two trees or something like that.
they're for what?
Between two trees.
Oh,
Yeah, you're right. They do
just-
look like that, don't they?
yeah, it just reminded me of what you see on telephone poles, like spaced every now and then.
Okay, now here we're on 413. This is what the dipole antenna looks like when you're looking straight down on it. You see it's got these two bulbs, way big ones, and then there's nothing going on in the middle. Okay. Now, if I have an antenna like my arm, there's plenty of space for that antenna to pick up the signal that's going by. But if I have the end of my finger, there's nothing for that to go on. So I'm going to tell you a little secret that I've been using for 20 years. When you put your antenna up, you put it in a dog leg. You draw a circle around the world. Somewhere there's a guy who's lined up exactly with one end of your antenna. You can't talk to him because the signals are not big enough. But when you do it like this, where you have part of the signals caught here, part of the signals caught here, and here and here, it gives you more surface area for that signal to catch on. So I automatically put a dog leg in every one of my dipole antennas so that you cannot have that little pointy end that that you see here on the top one. You see where there's no signal going into in the middle part between those two lobes? That's because the signal can't catch on that tiny little finger point of an antenna. Now, if you look over next to it, this is what a dipole antenna looks like in 3D. You see how it's out and big and round and everything all around, but through this little wire, there's nothing there. So your Uncle Bob figured out that if you bend the antenna, you'll be able to catch stuff all the way around.
Interesting.
Well, that's the way this is you know, just think about it for a little bit. That antenna will pick up the electromagnetic wave as soon as it hits it. But if it's a tiny little point, it's not going to catch it as well as it will if you had something like this.
So, Bob, we did not make it really past page whatever 4.
6 is what I was thinking about.
So what do you want us to be caught up on for the next time we meet?
Okay, I would start on F.3 on 4.9, and that will be feed lines and SWR.
I'm sorry, it was garbled. Could you repeat that, please?
4.3, feed lines and SWR. It's on page 4.9.
Oh, okay. You want us to start there or end there?
That's what you should start for next week.
Okay,
I want you to read this whole thing through. Come with any questions you have about the first part of this chapter, and we'll go on to the next.
I'm sorry. Brenda, could you mute? And Bob, could you please repeat it?
Yes. I want you to come to us next week. Because I read that, but I don't understand this part on everything up to 4.8.
Okay.
And 4.9 and the rest of the chapter will be what we do next week.
okay, up to 4.9, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
But the antenna is such an important part. If you had a certain amount of money you were going to spend and improve your station, should you buy a new, bigger, more fantastic antenna or a new, bigger, more fantastic radio? The answer is always the antenna.
Okay.
And the neat part about antennas is once you understand them, you can build them yourself. You don't have to spend $300 to get one. Not that the already made ones are bad, it's just they're expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for tonight.
Too bad.
Yeah. We'll see you next. Oh, no, you guys are meeting next week, right? I guess I won't be in there.
Hopefully you can join us.
I don't.
Yes.
When is it? Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
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 before.
Tuesday?
Yeah,
Oh. Okay. I doubt it, but we'll see.
oh,
You can make
Well,
it.
I'm worried.
can
That's the
make it.
first day of school, so we're gonna be crazy. Yeah.
You're gonna have school at 6:30 at night.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What?
Have school at 6:30 at night.
No, but there's.
it's
I
a
know.
long,
Well, I'll do my best. Okay, let's put it that
Okay.
way.
it's
Okay.
a long drive for you. We
Yeah,
understand.
it's a long drive, and I have to drive all the way back, and then I have to get up at like
Where are you at, Judy?
Gold Beach. Yeah.
Well, if you made it to Bandon, then I could drive you up.
Oh,
So,
you live in Bandon?
Yeah,
Oh,
but you live in Florence, don't you?
no, I live in Gold Beach.
Oh, you live in Gold Beach. Okay.
Yeah. Bandon's about an hour away or something. I don't know. Something like that.
you just let me know via Bob if you want to do that.
Okay, but Bob doesn't answer his. Would you be able to give me your number, or are you willing to do that?
Judy, can I give you my cell phone number so that you can, if you need to text me?
Yeah, give me your.
My cell phone number, yeah, is 541-662-4140.
Uh-huh.
And if I get messages on that, I can reply. But everybody says that. We sent you a message and I'm like, no, it doesn't work on the landline.
Okay, now, right now, what we're talking about is an experience in relaying.
That's right.
And Judy, I just sent you mine to your message in your chat. So you,
Oh, there it is. Okay, I just sent you Bob's number there. You got that, I guess.
She's
Good
got my number.
Thank you. Well, no, your call sign or whatever it is. She asked you for your call sign on the chat portion there.
AD7IL, right? We wrote it down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wrote it down.
You guys don't have call signs, but you will.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, everybody.
You bet. We'll see you next week in actual person.
Okay. Bye-bye now.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night,
night.
everyone. Thank you, Bob.